and welcome to the final episode in the first season of Smiling in the Dark, the podcast where we, your resident smilers, put the kids to bed, unlock the front door, turn off the lights and smile our way through the horror, one theme, one subgenre, and one sleepless night at a time. I'm Ross.
I'm Adam.
And this opening season, we have focused on the films that have invented some of our favourite horror subgenres. Today, we've looked at vampires, when nature attacks, slashers, cosmic horror with The Thing, full-on body horror with Jeff Goldblum in The Fly. And in the last few weeks, we've reviewed meta-horror with Scream, the found footage craze with the Blair Witch Project, and just last week, we touched on the gateway drug for torture porn with 2004's Saw. In our last episode of this season, we're going to look at a new and rather pretentious-sounding subgenre of horror, the elevated horror. A term, probably, that was conjured up by critics who don't particularly like horror films, but need to find some sort of justification for why newer horror films are becoming a lot more popular. Thinking films like Get Out, The Babadook, and our focus today, which is Hereditary.
Yeah.
Adam, what's your history with today's subgenre and film?
Yeah, I think you sort of touched on the subgenre there. I don't know that it really means an awful lot to call it elevated horror. I think it kind of puts out an indication that all horror before was really basic, which would seem harsh. But yeah, I think I'd seen a bit of a resurgence in horror, and I think maybe the whole elevated horror tag maybe made some production companies, maybe even some directors and actors think, well, I can maybe be in this and still be taken seriously. So yeah, I think I loved films like Get Out. There was did you see a horror called Us? It was another Jordan Peele one, which I really liked.
Liked that as well.
And yeah, Hereditary is one that I think I heard a lot about before I actually saw it myself. And some people were really freaked out by it. I wasn't quite as freaked out as some. But yeah, I think it's one that coming into this, I'd only seen once before. I didn't see it at the cinema. I saw it when it was probably first released on a streaming service, and thought, it's a pretty good film. Yeah, what about you?
Well, I think I said in the last episode that my only experience with Hereditary before was that I pretty much fast-forwarded through it because I was so scared. On watching it again, I've no idea why I felt like that. But, I felt like that with the Blair Witch Project as well. So times have changed, I guess. It's no brand new thing for horror to, or for the subject of a horror film to represent something else. It's definitely nothing new, but possibly in these more modern times of horror films that we've had, like we touched on, or we spoke about Saw last week, and then horror did just go a little bit gratuitous for a while. So maybe it's just needed that to then get back to, horror, a horror film not meaning something, but just having a lot more about it than just that violence.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. So we go into the background. I don't have a huge amount before we get into the film, but I've got a little bit.
Yep, go for it.
Okay, so Ari Aster, I believe, was a film student when he had written this film. He had developed 2 other short films in his time, something called The Strange Thing About the Johnsons and Munchausen. I've read about The Strange Thing About the Johnsons, and I've seen people say it is, you spoke about a TV show last week, and I think you said the final episode was like so harrowing or something like that. That's the sort of reviews that I read about this, the strange thing about the Johnsons.
Okay.
But it was Munchausen that leaked online, and that's what brought him to the attention of a production company called Palm Star Media, and that's what started the process of getting Hereditary developed. He didn't think that he was going to be able to get the film made if it was a horror film, so he developed it as a family drama exploring grief and generational trauma, which you can see, of course, that's the main themes of the film. Basically, he's trying to hide the horror aspects, but eventually they've clearly came out, and he's managed to get the funding to get the film made. The film was produced for somewhere in the $10 million region and made around 80 to 90 million worldwide.
Yeah.
And just the last thing, he's actually written a prequel, but he is not sure if he's ever going to make it. But he says he's just not sure where it fits in as far as getting it made. But is that something you'd be interested in seeing?
Potentially. I think I assume if it's prequel, it's looking at probably the mother, or grandmother, how you want to view it, and the witches' coven and things like that. I think it depends what the story was going to look like for me.
Yeah, it's a funny one. I'd like to see more in this, but within this realm of what's going on. But I don't think I would be too interested to see what's before, and I don't think there's anything to see afterwards either. So yeah, it's a funny thing to think about. But I think you're right. I think it would have to be around the mother, Queen Lee or something like that. They were referring to her as. Okay, shall we just talk through it and you can jump in?
Yeah,
I've got lots and lots and lots to talk about, but it's probably afterwards.
Okay.
But if we get into things as I'm going through it, more than happy to do that. There's a lot of tangents, I think, with this film. And just for the audience's sake, me and Adam have got the same photo of Paimon. So if we're referring to that photo of Paimon, that is what we're talking about. It's quite relevant to some of the conversations we're likely to have. So, miniatures artist Annie Graham lives in northern Utah with her psychiatrist husband Steve, played by Gabriel Byrne, Annie, played by Toni Collette. They have a 16-year-old son called Peter and a 13-year-old daughter called Charlie. Charlie has a severe nut allergy and a verbal tic that sounds like...
Yes.
At the start of the film, the family are seen attending the funeral of Annie's estranged mother, Ellen. She talks about, she's given a eulogy. She talks about her mother being quite a private, difficult person. And she also talks about her surprise at the number of people who have come to pay their respects at the funeral. Whilst Charlie, the daughter, is stood at the casket saying her goodbyes, she's not really saying her goodbyes, she's just sort of staring at her, but she's in the line to say her goodbyes at the casket.
She's quite instantly creepy, is Charlie.
Yeah. She is, and clearly I think she's possibly, Dustin, and the actor that plays Dustin in Stranger Things, I think they've maybe got the same sort of structural issue, like the actors, the people in real life, I think, and that adds to that adds to her sort of creepy demeanour.
Yeah, because I think she's clearly quite awkward conversationally, and she's got like a stare on her that is just quite unsettling.
Yeah, I agree with that. As she's standing looking at her grandmother, we see a very strange man standing staring and smiling at Charlie. This is important to remember for later. After the funeral, whilst laying in her bed, Charlie asks her mum who will take care of her when her mother dies, now that Grandma is dead. When she's told that it would be her dad, she looks worried. This is also important. While at school, whilst Charlie's in the classroom, we see a bird fly in the window of her classroom. During break, she goes outside to where this happened. She clips the head off the bird with a pair of scissors and pops it into her hoodie pocket.
As you do.
Well, we've all done it. Later on, we see that she has a collection of lots of these things that she has made with birds' heads and like crafted bodies, don't we?
Yeah.
We see Annie, the mum, attend a grief support group where she is initially reluctant to talk to the group, but once she does fully open up, she really opens up. She talks about being estranged from her mum prior to when her second child was born. So when Peter was born, she mentions basically never letting her mother near him. But once Charlie, the daughter, was born, she basically says, I had to give her Charlie, doesn't she? She says something to that extent.
It's worded something like that. She's had a pretty rough time of it, has Annie. You know, her dad died, mental health issues, starved himself to death by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, the dynamic with her mother, difficult, let's see.
And she also at that point reveals that her brother killed himself, which was related to what they believe was related to schizophrenia, after claiming that his mother had tried to put a demon inside him. This is important.
Yeah.
So at this early stage, we can see that Annie is struggling, as you would expect someone whose mother has just recently passed. She's struggling with the weight, the grief that she has, but also this complicated relationship that she seems to have had with her mum. Round about this time, her husband receives a phone call to say that the grandmother's grave has been vandalised, and he opts to deal with that alone. Next we see Peter, who is at school. 16-year-old boy sitting dreamily staring at some young girl in his class. Peter is invited to a party and he's quite excited at the prospect of attending. He asks his mum for the car, and whilst she eventually says yes, she also says, if you're going, you're taking your sister, which he is pretty gutted about.
What is Peter here? Is he like 16, 17?
16, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's only, a 3-year age gap, but that's a tricky age gap. I mean, you don't want to be turning up to a party with a bunch of 16-year-olds with your 13-year-old sister there. It's a tricky one, that one.
Nah, no one's just going to stand and click at people and stare at them.
Yeah.
With some arguing, Peter agrees to take Charlie. Once he gets to the party, spies the girl that he'd been looking at. She talks about there being a bong upstairs, and he disappears away upstairs. He tells Charlie, look, there's chocolate cake over there, go in and get yourself some and I'll be back in a minute. Unfortunately, just before this, we do see that there were a lot of walnuts being chopped up and thrown into the mix for this cake. So Charlie eats a piece and goes into anaphylactic shock. She eventually finds Peter as she can barely breathe.
And he's smoking up a big bong.
He is.
He said no booze to his mum. As far as I can tell, he stood by that. But, he's been indulging in other ways.
He does like to partake, it seems, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
So Peter rushes her back out to the car and he's on his way to the hospital. She can't breathe in the back of the car. It's quite a horrible scene, especially for somebody that's got a nut allergy. It's quite a horrible scene, sitting watching her gasping for air. She opens the back window, puts her head out the back window to try and desperately get some air. Unfortunately, Peter sees a dead animal on the road, swerves out the way of it, and Charlie's head is taken clean off by a telephone pole.
So I admitted to you that this moment had made me laugh. And it made me laugh on rewatch. It made me laugh the first time I watched it. What I did find uncomfortable was her struggling for breath. That, for me, is the horror. That's the uncomfortable bit. The head coming off. I don't know. It does. It just makes me laugh.
You know when somebody's broke their arm and say it's all right because it was a clean break and it should heal better. That's a straight up clean decapitation.
Yeah, I don't think that's quite as good an outcome as the.
It's not the same.
Nah, I think you're going to have a problem with a clean decapitation.
That's fair. Clearly in shock, Peter opts to drive home and leave Charlie's headless body in the back seat of the car. He takes himself up to bed and just sort of lies there. He's clearly in absolute shock. When we hear Annie discover Charlie's headless corpse in the morning, it is an absolutely horrific sound that we're treated to.
It is, yeah. Again, that is, cause I don't know if it's just here when this happens that they give a shot of the head by the side of the road, just like covered in flies and all that. And the visual isn't horrific to me, but the idea of the mother discovering this in the car is horrific.
Yeah, that's so messed up. Like, you don't blame it. Like, he's 16-year-old, and I'm guessing shock does pretty crazy things to you. Yeah. It's just, horrendous. The cold cut to her head with no music or anything like that. Just all you're hearing is the buzzing of flies. It's pretty messed up. So after Charlie's death, we see Peter disappear into himself a bit, and we see Annie probably become a bit more manic, and definitely spiteful in her behaviour towards her son. We get an incredible scene at the dinner table between the two that, for me, is probably the best scene of the film, where it just feels like everything comes out, everything spills out that's being unsaid. And like in quite a lot of the scenes, or what you get the impression also behind the scenes, is the dad steps in to try and mediate between the two. And he's basically trying to defend his son and look after his son whilst also like keep his wife from really going off the cliff edge.
Yeah, because you can see it. There's a few scenes where there's obviously that initial scream, and then she's just like on the floor, just crying in hysterics, and she, completely understandable in the circumstances. But yeah, that must be tough for. Like, so obviously the dad will also be in pieces about this, but just trying to keep everything together to whatever extent he possibly can. Which I do think this, like a lot of the cutaways, a lot of the scenes, it's really like, what's the right word? Like sort of stylishly made. It's very well made, this film. It looks fantastic. Because everything, like in the early scenes, when you've got a lot of the models that are being made by Annie, and you, as the camera pans into them, it goes into the real house and things like that. It just all looks fantastic.
So I'll come back. Remind me to come back to that once we've got to the end of the film. And that's something that we've not mentioned yet, is that Annie seems to get her peace and quiet and her maybe a bit of rest from working on her models. But she, again, there's some very disturbing things that she does start doing, like building the scene of her daughter without her head in the back of the car. There's also quite a disturbing model around Charlie being breastfed by the grandmother.
Yes.
As well. On returning to her grief group, Annie is befriended by another support group member called Joan. clearly this woman is at it. Immediately, you can tell that
It's instantly obvious that Joan is not genuine.
Yep. She's given a bit of Kathy Bates in Misery a little bit.
Yeah.
This actress.
Yeah.
But through this relationship that she develops with Joan, we begin to understand a little bit more about why there's such, beyond the fact that he's just been involved in an accident that killed his sister. There's very deep-rooted issues between Annie and Peter. Annie reveals that she used to sleepwalk to Joan, and that one time she was awoken by the flick of a match. And when she realised what was going on, she had covered herself and the kids in paint stripper and struck the match ready to throw it on them. That's such a messed up image.
Yeah.
That's kind of terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that's like that thing of like, that's real life horror. And you don't even need to see it, just her talking about it.
Yep. Absolutely. Yep.
After a chance, in inverted commas, meeting between the two at a supermarket, Joan manages to get Annie back to her apartment. She's over the moon, telling her that she's managed to contact her grandson through a medium, and she'd showed her how to use like a what do you call that, like a seance or a
perform a seance.
So she shows Annie how to do it. Annie's definitely not up for it at all, but she just does it anyway, and she is laying it on thick, saying, if you want to do this for your Charlie, you have to say this. And she's like, what is it? And like, it's quite convincing, the whole, it doesn't matter what it is, you just need to say it, and this, the important thing will happen.
Yeah, because you're dealing with somebody in Annie who's so grief stricken and so dangerously low ebb that there is this feeling of that if you can get that person to listen to you, basically get them, they'll do whatever it is you're wanting them to do.
Yeah. So it's really messed up when you think how vulnerable the whole family are, and they've just been completely taken advantage of by this group of people. So, although she was against it when with Joan, freaked out, she clearly sits and reflects on it, and I think in the middle of the night, is it? Does she wake up Peter, or is it like early morning type thing? She wakes up Peter and gets the husband.
It may have been at night time, yeah.
Right. And has she had the crazy dream by this time? I don't know if I've actually written
just
that
before
down.
this, I think she had the dream that she was telling Peter that she tried to have a miscarriage when she was pregnant with him.
That was so messed up as well.
Yeah.
And I think there's also a scene where he has it's unclear if it's a dream or what is happening, but it's like somebody starts pulling his head down at the bottom of his bed. There's a whole thing with the flies and the ants walking through the house. Anyway, she's clearly enthused by the idea of bringing Charlie back and summoning her. So she wakes Peter, she gets the husband down, they're going to do their own seance, and she does what she's been told to do, and clearly does the things that they have wanted her to do. We get the whole object, the thing moving, the glass that she has moving. She starts speaking in Charlie's voice, and Peter at this point is absolutely screaming, "Mommy, Mommy!" It's terrified. And the husband eventually manages to stop this whole thing by throwing a glass of water over her. But do you think that's the point where the husband was like, that's the straw that broke the camel's back sort of thing?
I think so. So it's one of these good horror film scenes where there's so much going on, and you've got the sort of determination to go through with this thing by Annie. You've got the fear and everything that goes with it from Peter, and then you've got the husband who is just like, I have had enough of this. This is we've all lost it now. And just trying to grab everyone and bring them back to some sense of normalcy. But when there's all these things going on, I quite like these scenes because you almost feel like you're in it and you're muddled with it in terms of what's going on. Yeah, she's
so feverish the way that she's going on. It's it can be quite uncomfortable to watch. It's after this seance has taken place that we start seeing some sort of supernatural forces beginning to influence and haunt Peter. We see Charlie appearing in his room. At one point, we hear the going round about his room. This was when he has the dream or whatever it is, where someone's pulling on his head. I think we see him in the classroom. He looks over at one point, he sees reflections sort of cheekily smiles back at him.
Yeah.
We find, Annie finds Charlie's little sketchbook, which she used to sit and draw people all the time. She finds some messed up drawings of Peter in there, and she becomes convinced that needs to be destroyed. To stop whatever it is that they have roused during this seance. She does put it in the fireplace, but her hoodie starts to go on fire, so she ends up putting it out to put the flame out on herself.
Yeah.
Eventually she goes through her mum's belongings. She does it a couple of times, but it's at this point she goes through them and she finds like photos of Joan, and clearly she's known her mother all along. We see photos of her mother as Queen Lee and are led to believe that she's like the leader of Coven. We also find a book which describes the Demon King Paimon, and we have the photo that you and I have got there that's within there as well. In the attic, she eventually ends up finding her mum's rotting corpse without its head, and you get the occult drawings on the wood and all that up in the attic. This was a bizarre scene. So we see Peter sitting at school, and across the road from him, we see Joan screaming at him, and nobody else seems to have noticed apart from him. Joan is screaming to expel Peter from his body. I think that's what she's saying, like, leave his body and all that sort of stuff. Afterwards in class, Peter spasms. Strangely, he actually looks like he's went into anaphylactic shock. He spasms and he begins slamming his head against his desk. His finger is up in the air in a strange pose, and he ends up breaking his nose. The fucked up part of that is it's almost like he wakes up and then proper screams like what's happened. I didn't like that.
I did like it.
Okay. The way that Peter's arm is pointing when he spasms is important.
Oh, okay.
We're getting there. Annie tells, what's her husband called? Steve, that Charlie's book of drawings needs to be burnt. But she thinks that by doing so, it will kill her. So she says, look, you need to do it. I can't do this to myself. I need you to do it. Steve's just like, what the fuck is this all about? Stop your nonsense. It's kind of, if it was like a 1940s film, it'd be like, get a hold of yourself, woman, sort of thing, eh? But, so she just grabs, she's not got the sort of time to waste. She grabs it, throws it in the fire, and poor Steve bursts into flames.
Yeah.
Burns to a char.
It didn't do anything. He's just being there, just being a guy.
Just
trying
being
to keep
Gabriel
everything
Byrne.
together. Yeah.
In the next scene, we have Peter waking up in his bedroom. It's very dark, and we can just about make out Annie, who is hiding in the top corner of his room. We have to assume that burning that book has been like the next step in whatever is needed to happen.
Yeah.
Because now she's doing like some crouching tiger, hidden dragon shit, like running across the walls and that. Poor Peter stumbles downstairs, finds his dad's burnt corpse. She continues to appear in the background of shots, which I think is excellent because you kind of think she's going to do something and she doesn't.
Yep.
And that is brilliant.
Yeah, that's very well done. I like that.
Peter looks across into the kitchen and we see the same man from the funeral who was staring at Charlie and smiling is now standing staring and smiling at Peter. But this time he is fully naked.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He had to be, I suppose. I don't know why.
Okay. It's all part of the plan.
It must be.
We get Peter completely shitting himself. Annie starts chasing him through the house. He eventually runs up to hide. Why hide in the attic, Peter?
Yeah.
But he hides in the attic and we see that Annie has went full paranormal activity. She is on the other side of the attic door, banging her head and all this sort of stuff. Poor Peter, he's went up in the attic to get a bit of refuge and instead he just comes across more naked old people.
Yep.
Who are like just sort of happy to see him. You hear this sort of rhythmic back and forth noise, and when Peter looks up, he sees Annie doing the Donald Trump dance, the YMCA. Unfortunately, that's not what she's doing at all. She's running piano wire forward and back across her throat.
Over and over and over and over again.
Yep. Horrified at the sight of this, as you would be, seeing your mother decapitate herself, Peter dives out of the attic window and we are to assume dies?
I think so.
I think he dies, but we can discuss that. We get this crazy light, which we've seen a couple of times throughout the film, but not a lot. Not enough to make us think. It's quite like sort of Donnie Darko-ish, this light thing. Anyway, we see this light enter his body and he awakes in the bushes and does this. He looks up and sees his mother's headless corpse floating up towards the treehouse where his sister used to sleep. So he follows that and heads up there. He finds lots of naked old people as well as his granny's headless corpse, his mum's headless corpse, his sister's head on a sort of makeshift wizard.
Yeah, can't think of a better description.
We have Joan. She takes the crown off of Charlie's head, puts it on Peter's head. Peter looks incredibly confused. She tells him that he is King Paimon. She says that they've corrected his female body and given him his preferred male host, and they hail Peter as he looks on, confused.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I suppose, I don't want to, I've got lots of things to discuss about it, but I suppose I just want to ask you, what do you think the film was all about?
Oh. So, like, to me, and I suppose people will take what they want from films like this, just because of what interests me, I was most intrigued by all the family dynamic stuff. You know, you've got your sort of classic 2 parents, 2 children. You've got a difficult relationship that you're aware of between the mother and her family, and then her with her son, certainly. And you know, the places this film goes are not necessarily things that interest me as much. You know, once we get into Witch's Coven and what was it, 8 Kings of Hell and things like that, I'm a bit like, okay. But yeah, I feel like you have read up on or investigated a lot more in terms of what was going on, certainly with Paimon and that side of things.
Yeah. But I'm with you as well. Like I really like the whole generational passing on of, I don't know if trauma's the right word, but like the impact that the parents have on the children, and then that sort of generational cycle of stuff. I find that interesting, and that does have its own sort of horror aspect to it. It could have been anything. It could have been witches' coven. It could have been possession. It could have been, I don't know, vampires or zombies or anything. But I think that
the processing trauma part is really the key, I think.
Aye.
Yeah.
And I think horror's a good medium to sort of look at that through as well. And we get some of that in Midsummer as well, through the main character. I've totally forgotten the actress's name. What's her name? No, come back to
us. Florence Pugh.
That's it, yeah. We get some of that because she's went through grief and death of both family or all family members, maybe.
I think it's her parents get killed in their house or something like that.
Like a fire or something like that, aye.
Her gas leak or it's something, yeah.
So like there's clearly something there that interests Ari Aster as well. So I agree, but I wanted to know more about, like, because I think you get to a point in this film where you're just like, what the fuck? So I wanted to know more about that. So I have done a bit of reading, and also I said to you, watch some interviews with Ari Aster, but there's also like theories and stuff. So go through these. So the first one was, which is what I was going to say when you'd mentioned about the miniatures. So the reason that we are constantly seeing from the perspective of the miniatures and then sort of transitioning into the house is for us to get the impression that there's people in the house all the time, and they are putting things in place. They're essentially sort of scripting what's all happening all the time, and we're meant to think that these people, these naked occultists, are in the house the whole time. Which I don't know if I buy, and I don't know if I would have even. I don't think I would have thought about that unless what do you think about that? Do you think that sounds nonsense?
I think it sounds like something that was probably just come up with after everything was made, and somebody was like, "Hey, that looks pretty cool. I wonder why they did that."
So one of the, I don't know if theories is the right word, but one of the theories is that Charlie is Paimon. So Charlie has Paimon inside her from the first time we see her. She's always had Paimon inside her, and he's like an immature god, basically. So there's quite a lot of bits of evidence to suggest that. So the whole thing of the grandmother saying that she wished Charlie was a boy, we're told that, and we're told that Paimon's preferred host is a man. Paimon rides a camel, and Charlie has the clicking what do you call it, verbal tick, and you could theorise that the noise a person would use to make the camel go is the clicking noise, and any time the clicking noise is used, it's used by Paimon to move the vessel that he's in.
Okay.
Do you buy that?
I mean, I had it in my mind watching that Charlie was always Paimon. I had that in my head. Just from little bits and pieces that are said, from certainly the behaviours that we see that look like they have been going on a long time. That was my assumption, that she had long term been Paimon.
Okay, nice. I love that. So another example, the guy at the funeral is standing staring like he's looking at a god that he has conjured.
Okay.
The way he's looking at her is exceptionally creepy, but if you sort of recontextualise it into, I have managed to conjure a god as part of this coven, and it's inside that girl's body.
Yeah, okay.
Clearly the grandmother's already tried to rouse Paimon into her own son, and it's either not worked or it has worked, and he's So decapitation is clearly important in the film, and in the picture that we see of Paimon, he is carrying 3 decapitated heads. In this film, we get 3 different people decapitated. We obviously get Charlie, we get the mum, and the grandmother is decapitated as well. So decapitation is clearly key to Paimon, and Charlie is obviously seen clipping the head off the bird. She's got all these different things that she's crafted that would suggest that is also Paimon doing that.
Yep. Okay.
Another thing that we've already talked about is Peter dying when he jumps out the window and being brought back, and at that point he is Paimon. And that's why he looks confused, because he's just kind of like, I don't really know what's going on. Again, this sort of immature demon. But the first thing he does is obviously make that clicking noise.
Yeah, that part certainly made sense to me as well. Because you see him jump, and it is like he's no longer him at all once you see him again. So
in that image we see a Paimon. He has like a sort of scepter or a stick, and the scepter is pointing like exactly like what Peter's hand was pointing like when he has that seizure.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I think there's more, but that's all I have in front of me. But I think there's more. But I think based on, again, what I read and what I saw, and I like this, I don't necessarily need to know it all or discuss it all, but Ari Aster literally had an answer for everything that went on in the film.
Okay. Yeah, I think you get a lot of films where you've got the story there, and then you can take from it what you want to take from it. And a lot of those are maybe some of the better films a lot of the time, because I could watch something, I could watch the same thing as my wife, and we could think these are 2 completely different films if we were to then talk about what we actually took away from it. And you make a good point in the sort of the witches' coven bit. While it's not for us as such, and I don't think either of us would say this is exactly what I want my horror film to be, but in a way kind of irrelevant. Like, it could have been anything. But I think that the sort of family, and at times fractured family dynamic, all trying to process grief and all processing it differently, that's something that everyone will have dealt with, which is, you can all see similar themes in a film when you're watching it as well, as taking your own thing from the storyline. So,
100%. One more thing has come back to me. I think Paimon, the image of Paimon is as a bird's head, and we have Charlie sleeping in the treehouse.
Yeah.
And they keep telling her, stop sleeping in the treehouse, you'll get cold, and she says she's fine. And that could also be related to the sort of clicking, clucking noise as well.
Okay. Nice. Did you enjoy doing a bit of Paimon research?
I did. Yeah. Scratched my, I don't know what, obsessive itch. We talked about the dinner scene, and I got the impression that you're quite a big fan of that as well. Was there any other scene that you particularly enjoyed?
So I sort of touched on some of the ones that I thought were good from a horror point of view, like her Charlie struggling for breath in the backseat of the car. It's that, to me, that's pure horror right there. Speak as an asthmatic, struggling for breath is one of the biggest fears you would have. And you have a nut allergy, so yeah, that must hit home for you as well. I enjoyed, there was a lot of it I enjoyed the look of. I thought some of the scenes just looked fantastic, just really sort of clean and crisp, but not in a way that took away from it being a horror film. Because it was quite dark and foreboding, but it just was very well put together. But yeah, I think the dinner scene, I think a couple of the nightmare sequences for each person, I quite enjoyed those. I quite enjoyed it getting a bit creepy for Peter when he started seeing things and hearing things that clearly nobody else could. Because again, you can look at that at face value, or can look at that as this person, after everything they've been through, are they having some sort of mental issues that are going 100%, on? So yeah, enjoyed those as well. Anything else leap out for you?
I don't think so. I hear what you're saying about the broken nose scene, as far as enjoying the way that he sort of woke up from wherever he was.
I did have a bit of info about that scene.
Oh.
So Alex Wolff was the actor, played Peter, and he went to the director and the producers because he wanted to legitimately break his nose by smashing it on the desk, and they were told there's absolutely no circumstance in which you can do that. We would never allow it. So they'd created a desk that had padding where he was to hit, so he could go down with force, and it would look realistic. But obviously, he's not going to be allowed to break his nose. But he slightly misjudged, and he hit the desk with his chin where there was no padding, and he broke his jaw.
Oh wow! Wow.
Yeah.
So he got what he wanted in the end.
Kind of, yeah. There were a couple other things I had pulled out when I was doing some research. The actors who played Peter and Charlie, they started, at Ari Aster's request, socializing together when they were making the film. So they'd go for meals together and stuff like that, because he wanted to try and forge that real sort of almost brother-sister dynamic between the two of them. And apparently it was a bit awkward. You've got this 16-year-old guy thinking, why am I having to hang out with this 13-year-old girl? And apparently all of the cast, apart from Toni Collette, had worked together before. And that was intentional by Ari Aster, because he wanted there to be a familiarity between the dad and Peter, the dad and the daughter, but he wanted her to feel like a bit of an outsider, and she was as soon as she walked on set. She never worked with any of them before.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's a lot of attention to detail clearly put into this.
Yeah, I thought Toni Collette was very good in this. I mean, to be fair, all the acting was very strong in this, but yeah, I thought Toni Collette was very good in this.
It's incredible, really. Yeah, probably the best sort of acting job I can think of in a horror film. Generally, she's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah,
I think there was a lot of disappointment that she didn't receive an Oscar nomination. She did receive a lot of nominations for a bunch of different awards, but clearly that wasn't one of them.
Yep.
So we've been talking throughout this season about these subgenres and these films that have heavily influenced or created these subgenres, and we talked about the influence that those films have had on future films. So this came out in 2018. So probably a more difficult one to think about. But was there any that sort of sprang to mind when you were watching this?
The only thing I thought of, and it's more about the style than in any way the content, was Midsommar, which is the same director, so it makes sense. But I think visually, and again, I talked about it all looking very clean and crisp, and you get that all through Midsummer as well.
Oh,
It looks
yeah,
fantastic.
you really do.
So yeah, that was the one that leapt out. I probably there wasn't anything that I've watched that I know was definitely after this that I thought I can see the influence there. My mind maybe automatically just went more to, I wonder what influenced this, and there were quite a few films springing to mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, was there anything for you that you've seen that you thought was influenced by this?
Well, I thought the same about Midsummer, definitely. I was just thinking about these so-called elevated horrors, and I was thinking about films that have got that horror aspect that also are trying to say a bit more, or try to touch on like important themes, like the stuff we've talked about generational cycle and things like that. So I was trying to think of films like that. Weapons, I thought, was one that came to mind.
Nice. That's a great film.
There was a few more though. I thought Smile was trying to do something a bit different and not just necessarily be a make you scared horror film.
Yeah.
The film Heretic with Hugh Grant and the two girls that come to visit him.
Oh yeah. I
felt like that was trying to. It's a little on the nose, the stuff about religion.
It is quite. Yeah.
The Substance tries to do something similar.
Yeah.
And the other one I thought of, which I've watched relatively recently, was The Menu as well.
Oh,
and
yes.
Sort of touching on sort of consumer.
I think that's a really
culture.
good shout. Actually, I think the Menu's a great shout for this. I was sitting here thinking, have I even watched any horror films that were made after this? So every single one you've named, I've seen. So yeah.
I think we're in a time where we're getting loads and loads of horror films that are just more than give you a bit of a scare. I really enjoy it. Like that. What was the one? It's probably a little more science fiction than it was horror, but the one with Emma Stone that she got nominated for the Oscar for most recently.
What was it called? I've seen it. I can't think what it's called.
I can't remember, but that was a really good film as well, and it was quite odd. But also saying a bit more as well.
Yeah, nice.
What have you got for a score for Hereditary? Out of your 6 smiles, what have you went for?
So, I'm going to. I found this a bit tricky because I think it's really well made. I think it's really well acted. It didn't scare me, but then probably quite a lot of the films we've looked at on this haven't really scared me. I wasn't as into, some of the Witches' Coven stuff and all that. I'm going at a 3.5.
Okay, nice. Smack bang. It's not
just above middle. Just above middle.
I went 5. I think I would like to watch it again. I would watch it again, I suppose I should say. I like the themes that it touches on, and having read into it more, I'm sort of interested in it. So, a 5 for me.
Nice.
Well, unfortunately, our boy Roger Ebert passed away in 2013. So we normally like to check what he's said about the films we're watching, but we don't have his commentary on Hereditary. But I do suspect he would have liked it. But I also thought that about The Thing, and he didn't. So who knows with the Ebes?
Yeah.
We did come up with a. What did we even? How did we even get on to? We were talking about making our own movie where we do a seance to bring back Roger Ebert to get his views on Hereditary.
Yep, that was it. Yep.
Yeah, that's got legs, by the way. Ben Kingsley playing me, Colin Farrell playing you.
Fantastic.
I think he could do the Scottish. I think we would just have to expect Ben Kingsley would just do whatever he wants. Maybe we could have him play his character from Sexy Beast, but as me. Not that no, sorry, go on.
I think someone's going to hear this and come at us with some sort of contract or funding offer for this story, I think.
Do you think?
It's going to happen.
Not the estate of Roger Ebert to sue us.
I would hope not. We've praised Ebes all the way through, apart from The Thing. But yeah,
maybe referring to him as Ebes is in itself grounds for something. Anyway, Hereditary sits at 90% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. It's had wide praise from critics, and as we spoke about before, both the film and Toni Collette were nominated for and won a number of awards on its release, including the Fangoria Chainsaw Award, which I like the sound of.
It's a great name.
It is. And as I like to do, I've got myself a wee 1.5 star review from Rotten Tomatoes if you'd like to hear it.
Absolutely.
This is from Wayne Campbell, and he says, I loved every minute of this film until 1 minute 56. The problem being the credits roll at 2:03. Why? Because the end is lazy, hollow garbage. How can we be taken on a joyride of near-perfect horror only to be defecated on by a director who clearly despises his audience?
Oh,
what could have been one of the greatest horror movies of all time thrashed by the ending twist of this being all about demonic possession? The entirety of the film is rooted in guilt, redemption, and mental health, but then proceeds to pull the cinematic equivalent of haha, just kidding. It feels as though Ari Aster knew people would flock to this and praise it for originality in spite of spitting in our faces and pocketing our money. What a waste. So, poor Wayne feels that he's been spat on, had his money stolen, shit on by Ari Aster.
He's taken, my views on, witchcraft, demonic possession, all that, which is a bit like, meh, and it's ruined the entire thing for him, though. Everything that went before has been ruined.
7 minutes has ruined 1 hour 56 for him.
Oh, that's brutal. I feel bad for Wayne.
I wonder if Wayne's got a review of The Sixth Sense on there as well that we could delve into.
Oh, Wayne. I hope his next watch was more fulfilling in the end for him.
A stronger finish.
Yeah.
So that's us. That's us at the end of our season of historic subgenre debuts. What's your favourite film we've watched over this?
I knew you were going to ask me that, and I was like, because how do I compare some of them? Like, in terms of my favourite viewing or reviewing, I loved rewatching The Thing. I hadn't watched it for a long time. It was great fun. I don't think it's the best film on here, but I really enjoyed rewatching it. Mm-hmm. Whereas I think something like, if we look at Halloween, which maybe is one of the best films on here, but I've seen it loads. I'm gonna say I really enjoyed doing Psycho.
Yeah, me too.
I think I'll maybe go Psycho. Like, I think if somebody said to me, name your favourite horror film, it's not one I would say. I would maybe say Halloween. I would maybe say The Shining, one of those films. But I really, really enjoyed the rewatching of Psycho, and I think it was just a bit different. There was so much of it was character and internal monologue and things like that. I just, really enjoyed it.
Nice. I think Psycho stands out to me as well. Psycho and the Blair Witch, I think, stand out to me. However, Jaws was really good to watch again. And I don't know, you're right, it's sort of like the experience versus what you think is the best film, but yeah, I think probably Psycho and Blair Witch for me. Nice. What about a worst film? I take it we would both say Nosferatu.
I think Nosferatu, yeah. I wasn't a huge fan on rewatch of Saw, but
Nah, me
it
neither.
is a tricky one because you know the twist. But yeah, I think Saw probably deserves a dishonourable mention.
Nice. Okay. So yeah, we will move on to a season 2. I think we've decided, we are going to take on some of Mike Flanagan's work for our second season.
Fabulous.
To be determined on whether that's. Yeah, I think we'll definitely revisit Midnight Mass.
Yeah.
And then some of his films. I'm tempted to try and chuck in Haunting on Hill House in there as well, but I maybe need to work on you with that, would I?
Yeah, I did enjoy it. I didn't enjoy it as much as Midnight Mass, but I did enjoy it.
Yeah. That's to be determined then. A lot of his films I've never actually seen when I was going through them.
Same. Yeah.
The only one I think I might have seen is the Shining sequel, Doctor Sleep, which I absolutely love. So.
Yeah, I was just going to quickly bring up a filmography because I'm guessing I've seen more than I think I've seen, but who knows?
Oculus is one of the ones that I've always went to watch and thought at some point I'll get round to watching that, but I never had. I've seen Gerald's Game as well. I guess you will have as well.
I have. So I've seen. Where am I starting here? I have seen Hush.
Oh yeah, I've never seen that.
I have seen Ouija Origin of Evil. Gerald's Game, Doctor Sleep. I think that's all the films of his I've seen.
Nice.
And,
cool.
Yeah, I think I've definitely seen Hill House. I've seen Midnight Mass. Have I seen The Midnight Club?
Oh, that's not very good, that one.
Is it not? Shall I just... do you know, I've never actually watched The Fall of the House of Usher, and I've wanted to for ages, but I've just never watched it.
It's so good. It's really good.
I will get to that. Yeah.
Cool. So we're going to... Over the summer, we're going to watch Widow's Bay over the course of a couple of episodes, which we've both heard good things about, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll get into the Flanaverse, if you will.
Yeah, I will. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to watching Midnight Mass again. When I watched it, the once, such a good show. Yeah,
I watched it when we were actually, myself and my wife were staying away in a cabin as well, and it was
on an island.
it was early November rather than late October, but yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed watching it, and in that sort of setting, you know, where it was kind of a wee bit in the mid. It was on a farm, nice. And they rented out a cabin, so it wasn't even like you had lots of other cabins next to you. It was, I enjoyed that.
You're such a sicko, a real smiler in the dark. It's only been a week, and there's been lots of World Cup games on. But have you watched anything in between?
I've really not. I was also away at the weekend. I was away out socialising, so
it's outrageous.
I've not really had the chance to watch anything else other than Hereditary. What about you?
Same, and I think I went and watched Hereditary like right after we recorded. Did I? It was pretty early in the week anyway. I did intend to try and see Backrooms at some point, but it's just never got the time to do it. So now it's just been football and no Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles this week.
I've got a wee bit of time off work, and I lined up the film Hokum, so I will be watching that at some point in the next few days.
Very keen to hear how that is.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, I did actually watch the first episode of Widow's Bay. I'm holding back there. I did actually watch the first episode, and it was fine. It was good. Look forward to getting into it.
Yeah.
Cool. So we'll be back, I think, in a couple of weeks, 13th, with our take on the first 5 episodes, the first half. Widow's Bay.
Excellent.
Super. Well, thank you for joining us for season 1 of Smiling in the Dark, and we look forward to getting into season 2 with Mike Flanagan.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Yeah. Keep on smiling, Adam.
You too.
Cheers.